smart work, not hard work, is needed in this exam.
Sir, why I took
You are a mechanical engineer, you chose anthropology.
It's better to hedge your risks in life as well as in career.
So Shweta, many congratulations for this success of yours in this attempt for civil service exam.
Thank you, sir.
So how all are feeling about this success? But it was the second success in a row, what I feel, for your family member and you. So what is the overall feeling at home and in your mind?
So it's a sense of gratitude that to make it to the list where so many students have been preparing day in and day out to make the cut. So that's a feeling of gratitude, and I'm not very sure of the service that I'll be getting, but still, I think that would be an upgradation.
Yes. And one more thing, like the people who are under the probation obligation, like your case it is, and other people also, it's very tough to balance, the time and energy for the exam. The kind of academic thing is required here, and the field level job and other things, management wise. So it's a tough, like if other person is in private sector and preparing for civils.
Right.
So any acquaintanceship that you had in managing and balancing this time and energy, anything that you would like to share?
Sir, majority of my preparation, I have done it alongside with my job. Like I was working as an ASO with Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Relative to a private job, I would say it is a little easier on that part because Saturdays, Sundays are off and the workload is little well balanced. But yes, having a proper timetable for the entire year, like I had proper milestones, what I'm going to do in the next 3 months, what I'm going to do in the next 1 month, and with some buffer, so that it's not that very tight schedule that you put in for yourselves, which becomes literally impossible to follow. I used to have fillers and buffers in it, which I would use to compensate whatever loss of time is there in the schedule. So that way I managed it. And it's important to know one's strengths and weaknesses. It's not that somebody is completing maybe Lakshmikant for these many days, so I also need to allocate these many days to it. Whatever I'm weak at, I need to work more on it, and whatever I'm good at, I need to maintain it. That was my agenda.
That's really good, because smart work, not hard work, is needed in this exam.
Yes.
And little experience of mine in this domain, when as a teacher I am in, so I come across many cases who are into some private sector work or who are under the probation obligation, they crack the exam. And the one very full-timer person, it's not that full-time study is not required, but still it's a great surprise that people working and preparing, they get success. And 75% of the cases I came across. But that's the message from this exam, that smart work is needed and the management. Yes. So now coming to another question, coming from the side of optional, that I could see that you are a mechanical engineer, graduation wise, and you took anthropology.
Yes.
So what are those factors which contribute in deciding about a particular optional? So you can also tell about this so that your follower will follow it.
Sir, why I took anthropology is something that I can answer. It was at that time the subject which was getting good scores, average scores if I talk about, for the people who got through the list. And that optional had a variety of sections which made it quite interesting to pursue for a year. It was not a very boring rhetoric kind of thing. So it had elements of science, it had elements of humanities. It had elements like tribal anthropology was totally new to me. So it kept the subject interesting. Vis-a-vis mechanical engineering, which I had stopped studying in 2014, and I was into a job for the next 2.5 years. So picking up again that optional, it was relatively, I found it a bit difficult on the side. So I took a humanities optional and anthropology.
Yeah, that is the honest answer to what I feel, that of course the syllabus is huge and other factors are also there. Interest basically is the foremost propelling force.
So probably with anthropology, when I see it, it's a thing in the market that the syllabus is a little small, but when we see it on the paper, it looks as small. But this goes for every optional, I say. No optional has got this small syllabus, which is very easy to do and crack in 2 months, because if it's that easy, it is easy for everyone. So whichsoever optional we choose, be it sociology for that matter, anthropology, there is in-depth study required in every option. And that you can see once you start preparing for it, that how much depth you have to fathom. So that came along, and that's why it took me eventually when I started with the same misnomer that the syllabus is less and I would cover it in chunks. But eventually I got to upgrade my notes. I upgraded them in layers, and that is why it took me this long.
Good, good. So any question from interview, from this connection only, that because we asked this question that you are a mechanical engineer, you chose anthropology, you are giving civil services exam. So since beginning, if you had the dream to be a civil servant, why didn't you had the graduation in anthropology? And this mechanical engineering, you could be a technocrat. So how to justify this? If you might have been asked this question in any mock panel or in the real interview so far, so you can tell the good answer for it. So because
so there's always a different way to answer interviews in UPSC and in mock interviews. But if I go behind the real reasons, I think it's always better to hedge your risks in life as well as in career. So when I opted for mechanical engineering, I had to opt for a graduation subject. Like the exam itself is evolving. The syllabus of the exam is evolving. This thing could not be comprehended way back in 2010 when I took the option, when I took the subjects for graduation. So I took up a career. I parallelly, maybe 4 years later, 4 years after taking graduation, you don't decide to move ahead with that plan. So that risk has always to be hedged. It's not necessary to make one exam the entire cornerstone of your life. So that's why I maybe decided with going with engineering, in that particularly a core branch, and that core branch came as mechanical engineering for me. I pursued my work interests also there. I worked as mechanical maintenance engineer into an oil refinery. And still, when I had the interest to pursue this exam, I aligned what all resources I had, and then I moved ahead with it.
No, that's good to be honest, because you rightly put it that way, that after 4 years you realized to go this way, and it's fine. So also, if I come across your case, you can better help your newcomers and aspirants that the marks that every main examination is giving to a candidate.
Right.
Generally, the problem is in main like essay paper, ethics paper, and maybe an interview. And other GS papers are giving predictably the same level of marks. So in your case, you can just tell the kind of approaches, or you can say measures that you took to improve upon from years to year main attempt, and the particular paper. What was your USP strategy?
Sir, earlier attempts, in my previous mains, I had scored less marks in anthropology paper 1. So I worked on that, and without content, without actual depth in the optional subjects, it's no any other way around. So I just worked on the content part of that paper 1. And specific to essay and ethics, I'm somebody who has scored far lesser marks than what I scored in my previous attempt. So when I see the difference in both the years, I would say practice is the only thing, originality is the only thing when it comes to essay and ethics. This time I somehow took it for granted because the time that I had in my hand was less, and I ended up paying for that in my actual results. So from 141 in essay, I moved to 113. Still, I would say the essay scores are lesser for this year, but I could have done better than 113. Then in ethics, in the previous attempt, I had 144. That again was a good year for essay, 2019. This time I have 98, but still there was scope of improvement. The only thing which I lacked this time was proper practice. So no particular subject is to be taken for granted is my cue out of it.
In ethics paper, you told that this time you had 98, and
yes,
and in previous attempt in ethics you had 144.
I had 144
in ethics paper.
Yes, sir.
This is one of the highest, being a faculty for ethics. I'm very happy to see.
But that year the highest was 162, I guess.
Yes, so, I understand. Yeah. So what took you to have this 144 as per your own assessment?
Sir, originality and basically ethics paper is a relatively lengthy paper. So that churning has to be done beforehand. You have to have everything in your head, the jargons, the case studies, I would say, the events that you want to quote, that have to be so well brainstormed before the actual paper that it takes you lesser time to recall and put things in a structured format. This was missing this time.
Yeah, and what about interview, like this year and previous year's interview marks?
So the previous year interview, I scored 179. This year I scored 187. So it was more or less in the same lines. This year I was more composed because I knew the kind of temperament that is needed. First, it was my first interview previously. So I had a little of anxiety. I was at times, in the interview itself, I was cross-questioning my previous answers at times in the previous interview. It did not happen this time.
Right. That's good. Now, one of the last question that I will have is that
yes,
I can see a teacher inside you who wants that my expression should be there, at least to impart the education or whatever I have learned so far as part of the moral responsibility also. How are you going to fan and give wings to this?
Sir, I think there exists a teacher within all of us in a certain way that whenever we see people doing the same mistakes that we did, we want to reach out and correct them in a certain way. But I've not really thought of it as of now.
Okay. Your hobby is also like that a teacher should have little, I could see if in depth, if I'm correct, poetry side as well as humming for you, vocally. So that's that's really good. In any of the interview, were they also focusing upon the hobbies part of yours?
Sir, there were questions related to hobbies in mock interviews, all the mock interviews, I would say. But in the actual interview, they did not ask me anything about hobbies in both the interviews.
Okay, that's a strange one. But anyway, that's really good. So I welcome you to the Delhi Center of Arts if you come and touch Delhi. So please come to visit the institute. And
Sure.
I will like to give the exposure to the student of yours and your experience so far for any of the things that you just want to express, and whatever you can do for the newcomers. And I feel that you can just do better given the chance that if you are taking up this exam again, because you can express yourself better and you have good understanding for the administration, what frame I can read in you. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So wish you all the very best and say my regards to your parents and just keep yourself healthy and well. What's more to say, see you very soon, Shweta.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Sure.